Bill Ryan, and today we will deliver to Governor Rauner a letter written by the Stateville debate team, whose outstanding debate team was canceled and its teacher, Katrina Burlet, banned from all DOC prisons. This is unjustifiable and another example of DOC's arrogance and lack of transparency, as they will not say why to this point. I want to, Katrina Burlet, that's Katrina Burlik. Katrina is a graduate of Wheaton College. She was an outstanding debater at Wheaton College, and now teaches debate at Wheaton College. For some reason, the DOC did not like her. Let me give you Katrina Burlet. Katrina?
Thank you so much to Bill and to Art Turner for reserving this room for us so this was possible, and to all of you for coming. I'm really, really grateful that you're all here to hear about what's been going on with my class and the Department of Corrections. Just one small adjustment to what Bill said. The last two letters of my last name are E.T. I don't know if that matters, but...
Yeah, she's still a good teacher and a great person. Okay.
So for the last few months, I have volunteered as the coach of the debate team at Stateville Correctional Center. This team is the most remarkable group of gentlemen that I have ever had the pleasure of working with. I began this debate team at Stateville with the same intentions that I have had for every debate team that I have ever started or coached, which is to teach people the fundamental elements of competitive debate. Those include things like effective communication, argumentation, refutation, and basic philosophy, logic, persuasion, and rhetoric. Now, I love teaching debate because I feel like it equips people not just for competitive argumentation, but also for all aspects of life. And I think that this is extremely powerful, not just for people. It's extremely powerful when you talk about developing these skills amongst people who are vulnerable or who are in parts of vulnerable populations, because it empowers them so significantly in a kind of way that they often don't have access to. So. But when we think about these skills, you should know that they're not the only things that we learn about in the debate classroom. We learn a lot about current events, so we don't just gain knowledge of logic and philosophy, but we actively apply that knowledge to evaluating societal and political issues that are relevant in our world today. And at Stateville, I have typically allowed the team to choose the debates or the topics that they would like to debate. So these gentlemen have chosen topics like, what is the best way that incarcerated men can support the Me Too movement? And how can Chicago most effectively decrease gun violence? And unfortunately, I am the only person who has had the ability to hear their thoughts on these issues, but there is one topic that many, many people had the opportunity to hear their thoughts about, and that is the idea of bringing a parole system to Illinois. Now, on March 21st, the Stateville debate team hosted the largest event that the Illinois Department of Corrections, or the IDOC, has held in 40 years. Dozens of legislators came, universities and criminal justice advocacy organizations were represented, and almost everyone within a position of authority in the IDOC was present. The team had a fantastic debate about restoring a parole system, which Illinois has not had since 1978. And they presented some really challenging and innovative ideas that were received with praise across the board. A month later, WGN aired a story about the team, the debate, and the need for the parole system in Illinois. Less than a week after that story aired, I was banned from all prisons in Illinois without explanation, and all people who work in the department have been prohibited from speaking to me, also without explanation. So today, I would like to venture a guess at that explanation. But before you can understand why what I was doing was so upsetting to the IDOC, I'm going to back up and give you a little bit of context. Given current Illinois law, 25% of the people currently incarcerated in this state should not be behind bars. These people fall into 4 different categories. These categories are filled with thousands of individuals who have their own stories, which are each deserving of their own press conferences. So I'm not going to try to address each of those things today. If you want more info on it, we have provided a packet of information about it at the back near where you entered. But the relevant piece of info here for the issue at hand is that under existing laws, Illinois is wrongly, unjustly, or illegally incarcerating roughly 10,000 people. And the IDOC has played a direct or indirect role in keeping every single one of those people in prison. Now, to understand why this is happening, it helps to know that the lion's share of the $400 million that we spend annually to keep these people wrongly incarcerated goes to paying salaries for union employees who live in towns that probably wouldn't exist if there weren't prisons there. I want to be clear that this is not an official complaint against unions, just an explanation of the situation. This to say, there is a lot of pressure on the IDOC to keep their numbers up. And when you combine that with the fact that we have a tough on crime mentality that somehow justifies ignorance about this system to the masses, in conjunction with the fact that most incarcerated people do come from lower income families and communities, so they lack the social or political capital necessary to be able to draw attention to the harms in the system, you end up having the most powerful department in the state of Illinois exercising the greatest power that Illinois exercises over its citizens that somehow should be the most scrutinized department in Illinois and is the most intentionally ignored. So the department is often left to think that their biggest stakeholder is the Correctional Officers Union. So I think, I know that's a lot, but again, this is just the necessary context. I haven't even come to the department yet. It's just important to know that when I began volunteering in Stateville last year, the DOC had a population of roughly 45,000 people, and though probably 10,000 people, 10,000 of those people should not have been in prison, no one was very successful in drawing much attention to this failure. So last October, I began volunteering in Stateville weekly. I quickly learned that Illinois does not have a parole system, and our debate team began thoroughly researching the topic. We asked questions like, what happened in Illinois that made us get rid of our parole system in the 70s? And how do other states run their parole systems? And what is the best way to determine whether or not someone is prepared to safely re-enter society? So the team did months and months of in-depth research. Along with countless statistics, ideas, and background info, we learned that we can conservatively estimate that 1/3 of our current prison population would be released if we did have some sort of parole system in place. So it really is well over 1/4 of our prison population that should probably be released immediately. It's much more like 25,000 people who are living behind bars in Illinois today that should be free, productive members of society. There's one more element to add to this. This is the first time that I am publicly sharing about wrongly incarcerated people and the need for parole in Illinois. Incarcerated men have been the ones bringing this message to the media, to legislators, to activists, and to government officials. They have gained real traction in their fight for parole, and multiple legislators have approached them expressing that they have interest in going back to Stateville and continuing to learn what the team has to teach them about parole and the various possibilities. These men have gained a ton of credibility and respect in the way that they have been bringing attention to this issue. So from the IDOC's perspective, this is really the worst case scenario. A young woman starts a volunteer program that unexpectedly gives a very real platform for the men in their custody to be recognized as rehabilitated, bright, creative, thoughtful, and able to meaningfully contribute to society. And the first time that they are given this platform, they point out the fact that thousands of their peers probably shouldn't be in prison, and the legislators respond positively, and want to work with them to establish a system for rehabilitated people to be released. If I was in the IDOC, I might ban me too. Before I introduce our next speaker, Lucy, I want to let you all know exactly what my program has been doing and what I will do with the program if I am allowed to return. Until now, I have been training incarcerated people in competitive debate, elevating their voices, and giving them a platform for their ideas and words to be heard. And when I get back into prison, I'm going to train incarcerated people in competitive debate, elevate their voices, and give a platform for their voices and ideas to be heard, and continue to allow them to publicly debate whatever topic they decide. This very well might be a debate about the freedom of speech in prisons, and it might be a debate about whether or not a hot dog can be classified as a sandwich. Whatever they want to talk about, I want to hear what they have to say, and I hope you do too. Let's let Stateville debate.
Thanks.
So our next speaker is Lucy Kane. She is a lecturer of political science at Northwestern University. She has also taught political science classes at Stateville for the last 4 years, and along with a program called the Prison Neighborhood Arts Project, or PNAP. PNAP is a collective of educators from various universities in Chicago and offers arts and humanities classes that comprise the bulk of the educational programming at Stateville.
Thanks, Katrina, and thanks everyone for coming. As Katrina mentioned, I've been teaching political science at Stateville Prison for the past 4 years with the Prison and Neighborhood Arts Project. Like Katrina, we are volunteers, educators from various universities in Chicago who have persisted, often in the face of an uncooperative IDOC, to provide arts and humanities and social science classes to people locked up in Illinois. I want to point out also that of the over 3,000 people incarcerated at Stateville, we as volunteers can only provide classes for a small fraction of those people. PNAP works with about 100 people in any given year because the system itself does not provide any resources. Without the work of PNAP and of individuals such as Katrina, our students would be in their cells 23 hours a day. It's a maximum security prison, like the majority of people locked up at Stateville currently are, with no programs at all. So the Prison and Neighborhood Arts Project, PNAP, stands in solidarity with students and teachers at Stateville, and in this case, the debate team and Katrina Burlet. We support all three of the debate team's demands. 1, Katrina's volunteer status must be reinstated at Stateville. 2, the debate class must resume with Katrina as the coach. And 3, legislators must be granted unfettered access to prisons in Illinois. PNAP believes that people deserve education, including incarcerated people. Education is valuable to people inside prison for reasons that aren't so different to why education is valuable to those of us outside prison. We all have a right to keep learning, to develop skills, to express our ideas, and to use our talents as a normal part of life. But for people inside, the opportunities to do this are severely limited. And this is particularly true of people with long-term and life sentences, such as the people locked up at maximum security prisons such as Stateville. Often education in prison is approached not as a general right, the right we all have to learn and express ourselves, but rather as merely a means to reduce recidivism or facilitate re-entry. Yes, educational programs in prison can also open up more opportunities for people upon release, and that is important. But if people who are probably not going to be released soon, those with long-term sentences, such as those who we teach, are subject to this justification, it doesn't apply. So these people are too often warehoused and written off. They are usually the first to lose out when educational programming in prison is cut back. But our students at Stateville, all of whom have long or life sentences, tell us that our classes give them a source of engagement and dignity that they wouldn't otherwise have. Without such classes, our students would not have access to texts, access to art supplies, or the opportunity to be in dialogue with us, or most importantly, with each other. The same is true of Katrina's class. It provided the debaters with an intellectual challenge and with opportunities to use their talents that they would not otherwise have. We want more educational programming in prison, not less. And in this case, that means reinstating Katrina and the debate team at Stateville. The IDOC has revoked Katrina's volunteer status and cancelled the debate team on the supposed grounds that it is not evidence-based. This explanation is unjustified. Debate has been shown to be productive in other states, but the IDOC will not consider evidence from other states. How can programs within Illinois be proven to be evidence-based if they are banned before evidence can be collected? The open letter from Katrina's students, which we will hear read shortly, is evidence of the value of her class. More broadly, we at PNAP are concerned that this dubious move to evidence-based programming could deeply affect all incarcerated students, especially those with long or life sentences. No official studies have been done on our classes, for example, either, to show that they are evidence-based. Yet I don't think that anyone who spoke with the students of PNAP would question the value of these classes. Finally, the students of the debate team have also been denied access to their legislators. Educational programs in prison not only provide an enriching experience, but can also give a voice to people who are often silenced and forgotten. In this way, those inside can contribute to public discourse from behind the prison wall. Awareness is growing throughout the country of our excessively punitive criminal justice system and the need to reduce sentences and consider alternatives in order to reduce what is by far the largest prison population in the world. Incarcerated people understand issues like parole reform better than anyone else. Often it is those closest to a problem who are closest to the solution. But as soon as the debate team succeeded in engaging their legislators around the issue of parole reform, the IDOC prevented any further discussion between them. This outrageous silencing of the debate team has broad ramifications and is deeply concerning. Denying incarcerated people access to legislators on this and other issues is unconscionable and does not reflect well on our democracy. We stand with the debate team and Katrina in their demand that legislators be given unfettered access to prisons. It's now my pleasure to introduce Mr. Earl Walker. Mr. Earl Walker is a graduate student in criminal justice at Chicago State University. He is a formerly incarcerated citizen and member of the Education Justice Project. Mr. Walker is also an entrepreneur and founder of Give Up the Streets, a community mentoring and lifestyle redirection organization.
Thank you. My name is Earl Walker, and I was a hostage in IDOC for 12 years. A little bit of background to add to some of the things Katrina said. IDOC came out with something called mandatory supervised release some years ago. And the point of MSR was to give individuals 1 to 3 years of early release as they integrate themselves back into society. Somewhere down the line, the legislators misunderstood what was written, and they add that on to the end of a person's sentence instead of giving them back to the community so they can reintegrate back into society. Also, these small towns, if you ever really paid attention, they're mostly south of I-80, most of the prisons. They're south of I-80, nowhere near the highly populated Cook Lake County area. And it's purposely for these farm towns to have some type of revenue generated. You can look at Michelle Alexander's book, New Jim Crow, or you can look at the documentary, The 13th, and understand why that's so important for these communities to actually have these sources of income. And in the early 2000s as well, they switched over from P.O. boxes to actual street addresses, so the 2,000 to 3,000 individuals that are in these prisons can be added to the population, thus getting more tax dollars to their actual communities. The programs that are within IDOC, I was in one of the Education Justice Project, started in 2008 through the University of Illinois, Urbana-Champaign. This is a 4-credit bachelor's program. We started out as a reading group, 1 class per semester, and it actually blossomed to the point where there were politicians and dignitaries coming from as far as Canada to see this program, to actually see how it works. Dr. Ginsburg, who runs the program, has done so for a while, gets out to the community, speaks, and shows by having people like myself go out and speak to show why these programs are so necessary. They now even do like meditation circles. They deal with traumatic experience that people go through. A lot of people don't understand in the community that PTSD actually happens from individuals that are incarcerated, and no one addresses that trauma. My thing to say to the community is understand that everyone does not have a indeterminate sentence. Even though if it's a long-term sentence, at some point in time, these individuals will be your neighbors. And I say this to politicians all the time. At one point in time, I was in prison. I'm gonna end up being your neighbor. Either write the laws to assist me with the opportunity, or some people are gonna have the mindset that I'm gonna take it from you. So either way, you need to address the problem before it becomes an issue further. But through these programs, if it's education, if it's through the arts, if it's through debate like Katrina does, it gives a voice, it gives a platform for the individuals that are in the problem to actually be able to, translate to the everyday public to understand why it is so important. Would you rather have a person that sat in a box for 20 years and they just turn the key and let them come back into the community? Or would you rather have an individual that actually showed themselves to be worthy to be back into society, to regain that citizenship and voting rights and things like that? I think you'd rather have the latter. And these programs help facilitate that level of intellectualism. Believe it or not, there's a very huge lack of social skills by constantly being confined amongst yourselves. Or there's no real checks and balances because you're speaking to individuals on an everyday basis that think like you. So if you have nobody to actually come in and give you a reality check and say, no, the world doesn't work that way, no one owes you anything, put your best foot forward, let the best you shine on a daily basis, how would you ever know? And that comes through these types of programs and through having discussions with individuals like through PNAP and through Stateville debates, as well as, like I said, the Education Justice Project. I myself, by going through these programs, came home with $57 to my name. That's it. But in spite of that, went through a business incubator. I'm an entrepreneur. Went to Chicago State, got my bachelor's in psychology. As Lucy said, I'm also, in criminal justice on the grad level. And now I started my own organization, which is the shirt that I have on, Give Up the Streets, and we do community mentoring and lifestyle redirection, not only for at-risk youth, but for individuals that are coming from prison that need to reintegrate into society. I know their plight. I've been where they are, and I can actually show where they can be if they're given the opportunity. So as just the everyday citizen, allow them the opportunity. Don't be the roadblock. Even if you don't want to assist them, don't be that stumbling block. And if at all possible, let your legislators know that your tax dollars are being wasted if not for programs like this being invested in. Thank you.
I'm going to briefly invite one other formerly incarcerated man up here. His name is Ken Berry. He's highly accomplished, completely fantastic human being, and he was wrongly incarcerated for 8 years in this state. So I want to invite him to come up and share about programming in prisons and the importance of listening to people who are incarcerated.
Thank you for Katrina, and thank you for adding me at the last minute to give a little bit of a voice to this. As Katrina said, my name is Ken Berry. I spent a little over 8 years in the Department of Corrections, 5 years at Stateville, 3 years at Galesburg as a victim of a wrongful conviction. Like my colleague, I can speak firsthand to the effectiveness of education and programming within the Department of Corrections. Right now, I'm a senior paralegal with the law firm of Winston & Strawn. I've been there 18 years now. The first paralegalism class that I took was at Stateville Correctional Center. It was taught by a assistant state's attorney who came down through a Lewis University program. As a result of that, I was able to get the foundation for the career that I have right now. And even though that was a traditional educational program, there were also a lot of non-traditional programs like the debate teams, like the tools of thought that taught you critical thinking, things of that nature. If I don't advocate for anything else, I'm an advocate for the effective use of prison time. In my opinion, it's criminal to lock someone up for 10 years. They come into prison as a functional illiterate, and they leave the same way. In my opinion, that's criminal. Should not be happening. When that happens, that person's options are very limited. That person will make you, me, someone else a victim because that time was not used effectively. That shouldn't be happening in this state. I also was able to finish my bachelor's degree while I was incarcerated through a Roosevelt University program. Unfortunately, it's no longer available as well. The Roosevelt University program, everyone that graduated, got their bachelor's degree, had a 99%, and I don't want to be, it's right around 99% success rate. No recidivism. Everyone that graduated came out successful, things of that nature. Let me address one more little thing, and then I'll give the mic up. Evidence-based. Whether this program is evidence-based, whether it should be given to men who are long-term prisoners or who may never get out of prison. They deserve the same type of education and program that anyone else does. Whether they do it, whether they can get out of prison or not, is irrelevant. You never know what may happen. If I'm a lifer, I go through the educational programming and I inspire my children to go on and do a positive thing for thousands, it was worth it. These are the types of things that need to be going on within our Department of Corrections. So I'm definitely an advocate for the debate program, for more programming, more educational, whether it's traditional or non-traditional, for the men and women who are incarcerated in our state. Thank you.
For our final speaker, before we go and deliver the actual letter to the governor, I'm going to invite Bud Davis up here to read excerpts from the letter that the Stateville debate team has written to the governor. So these are only excerpts. The entire text of the letter is going to be, it already is available online. We'll make it available to every one of you. But Bud's going to come up and read some of what they have to say. Bud is also an assistant coach for a prison debate team in Illinois, and I'm honored to invite him up here today.
Just a few words before I speak. I do go into Warrenville, and that's the youth prison, not the Stateville. It's a little bit different. But what I've learned is that just from working with the kids, there is a benefit in letting people say what they have to say, and debate is kind of useful for that because it forces you to think about things in a different way. I also attended the debate at Stateville, and I got to see the guys firsthand, and I was amazed. These guys, you don't realize just how intelligent and how articulate these guys are until you see it in person, and they are. So anyways, here's their letter. Dear Governor Rauner, we, the Stateville debate team, write this letter to implore you to reverse Assistant Director Gladys Taylor and thus the IDOC's unjustified decision to terminate the Stateville debate team and class, and reverse the unjustified ban on our teacher, Katrina Burlet, from Stateville Correctional Center and other IDOC facilities. Who are we? We are human beings. Collectively, we run the gamut from white to black, atheist to faith leaders among our peers. Several of us are published writers, authors, and artists. All of us are concerned citizens. Ms. Burlet is the founder of the Justice Debate League, She is also an excellent teacher, an experienced debater, and a devout Christian. None of us asked to be put in debate class. We just were, based on our positive records. Katrina Burlet came in to teach us how to debate. She left picking the topic of our first debate up to us. Actually, we even debated about the topic, and then ended up voting on it. We settled on parole and rehabilitation, two things Illinois illogically abandoned long ago. The debate was a huge success by all standards. 10% of the Illinois General Assembly attended. So too did dozens of other policymakers, activists, professors, IDOC officials, people from ESPIC, ICJIA, and CAARPR, the ACLU, the John Howard Association, and the Prison Review Board. Several legislators described the debate as phenomenal. More than half of the legislators in attendance expressed a desire to work with us on parole legislation. Nearly every other attendee expressed positive views of the event. Weeks later, both WGN and WBEZ reported favorably upon both the debate and the class itself. Here at the prison, it was much the same. During the debate, staff were relaying updates to incarcerated people in the cell houses who were not allowed to attend about how well we were doing. Several staff members remarked that many of us deserved release. The wardens were even pleased. Not only did they thank each of us by name in a memo posted on the closed-circuit institutional television channel, but they awarded us by adding us at the last minute to the list of those allowed to attend the first real music concert at Stateville in decades. After the debate, and then again after the WGN airing of the news segment about the debate class, dozens of other guys incarcerated in Stateville thanked us for both igniting the conversation about parole and for showing Stateville residents in a positive light. We felt proud and started preparing for an upcoming debate on voting rights against Wiley College. Riding high for about 2 weeks, we felt we had accomplished something positive with that debate, something substantial. Then everything changed on April 3rd. On that day, Gladys Taylor, without invitation, rudely took over our class. She informed us that she had come this close to canceling the March 21st debate. She then proceeded to threaten us both outright and in thinly veiled ways. First, she told us that she could shut the class down whenever she wanted because it wasn't evidence-based. Then she mentioned that, assuming we were all lifers or close to it, classes really shouldn't be wasted on us. Then she mentioned that some of us may not be properly placed at Stateville, insinuating that she could transfer us to Menard, where there are no programs and where guys are simply warehoused inhumanely. Then she also claimed to have threatened at least one state legislator at the debate, warning her not to put up any legislation concerning parole, or she, Gladys Taylor, would get her. Finally, Gladys Taylor warned that she better not see her name in any lawsuits. Her main beef with the debate: we were distracting the legislature from working on her appropriations. We assumed she meant the IDOC's appropriations, but at least 3 times she stated, the legislator does not need to be thinking about bringing back parole. They need to be focused on my appropriations. At one point, she even attempted to claim that this was an effort to help us get an extra pair of boxer shorts, as if that would earn her points with us. It didn't. It was condescending. Moreover, it seems Gladys Taylor doesn't believe that legislators can walk and chew gum at the same time. On Tuesday, April 24th, we had our regular scheduled class and were informed by Ms. Burlet that she had met with Gladys Taylor, who made it clear that this would be our last debate because Taylor had terminated the class under the guise that it was not evidence-based, that she did not want us meeting together anymore, but that she appreciated Ms. Burlet's work and would allow Ms. Burlet to teach another class in an adjacent facility. Wednesday morning, we were all informed by incredulous staff members that Gladys Taylor had canceled the recreation of the debate, which had been planned so we could videotape it, and banned our teacher from all IDOC facilities. Gladys Taylor's beef with the class was unequivocally that we were getting access to legislators, were successful in getting the attention of the legislator on an issue we wanted addressed, and that several legislators were now considering bringing back parole. To her thinking, this diverted attention away from her appropriations. She made this crystal clear on April 3rd. As more media attention thereafter was brought to the attention of our debate and parole, she decided to try to nip it in the bud. Let us quickly juxtapose what we got from this class to what we got from Gladys Taylor for our effort. We got a tremendous amount from this class. Not only did we learn how to debate and improve upon a variety of other school skills, writing, analytical, public speaking, communication, etc., but several of us were able to use this class to fulfill requirements necessary to obtain our bachelor's degrees. The success of the debate boosted our confidence, made our friends and families proud, and inspired us to want to hold regular debates about how to address other social issues. It showed us that sometimes our voices do matter, that we can contribute to the dialogue, and may even be able to come up with some answers to solve societal ills. In short, it returned a modicum of humanity to us, as the debate not only gave us a platform to be seen as human, but we were then treated as such by powerful people immediately thereafter. We also received a modicum of hope. Many of us assumed that debating parole would be good only for the learning process, that we would, as usual, be speaking into a vacuum. However, after all of our research, the success of the debate, and the legislators' interest in working with us on a bill has given those of us sentenced to die here hope. In prison, hope is priceless. It can literally mean the difference between striving for a better future or suicide. In contrast to all of that, what we received from Gladys Taylor was threats, disrespect, worried family and friends, our professional debate coach lessons canceled, our teacher banned, and our debate against Wiley College canceled. And the infringement upon both our right to free speech and our right to make our opinions known to our representatives. The art of debate is a touchstone of American democracy. It was at the heart of the crafting of our nation's Declaration of Independence and Constitution, as well as our state constitution. Every law and policy that we have came through debate. The skills we acquired through our participation on the debate team, which included public speaking, effective communication, and gaining control of our emotion and temperament in the midst of disagreements, are fundamental to being socially engaged. This is also critical to the IDOC's alleged goal of reducing victimization and preventing crime. This class should be available to all IDOC residents. Instead, it is now available to none. For all of the above reasons, and in the interest of justice, we respectfully request that you, Governor Rauner, personally get involved and A, reverse the IDOC's banning of Katrina Burlet, B, reinstate our debate team with Ms. Burlet as its coach, and C, issue an executive order granting all Illinois legislators unfettered access to the state's prisons. We all thank you for your time and consideration. Sincerely, the Stateville debate team.
Thank you, very good. We have some time for a few questions, and following the questions, we will take the letter to Governor Rauner's office, and everybody's invited to go see it, and hope some of the press come along. The governor is in Springfield, obviously, with the budget, but we will deliver the letter to him. And secondly, there will be a follow-up. We will work with the legislators who are planning a parole bill to be introduced in the legislature within the calendar year. So, any questions?
Can I ask a question?
Yes. Katrina.
Why do you think you got banned?
I think it's because of how effective our class was, how many legislators I was bringing in, and the attention that we were effectively drawing to issues that would lead to so many people being released.
But do you think this is a personality dispute between you guys, or do you think it's about the class?
Yeah, I mean, it may shock you, but I'm kind of a go-getter, and so coming from the position of being a volunteer, when I interact with people who are in positions of authority, I could see how my style doesn't necessarily jive with theirs, but I don't think that's ever a reason to ban someone or keep the guys in their facilities from accessing the kinds of things that I can coach them.
Go ahead.
How many people, and it might be in the packet, but how many people are on the debate team or have gone through the class?
In Stateville, 13.
And they are still there. What kind of sentences do those 13 have?
They're all serving life sentences or de facto life sentences.
Does, I think what struck me when we were down there with you is one of the prison staffers said, "Oh, this is so great. Stateville's very lucky because we're close to Chicago, so we have people who volunteer their time and who have programs like this." I mean, did you cost the state anything? I mean, what is the message you fear this sends to other volunteers?
I think that it seems clear to me that what the IDOC is trying to do is remove all programming outside of religious services from maximum security facilities. Mine is actually not the only one that has been canceled in the last couple of months. And my understanding is that they're going to ask even people who are from universities and colleges that offer college courses with college credit to go to other facilities so that people who are serving shorter sentences will be the ones who have access to this, with the mentality that classes are wasted on people who have longer sentences.
Could I add a little thing, Katrina? I've been visiting in DOC for 25 years. I've visited a lot of people. Right now, there's more anti-program in DOC than I've seen in 25 years. I will tell you this, they have, consider this, the DOC budget annually that they're voting on right now is $1.6 billion, that's with a B, 600,000, not counting all medical services. So it's upward to $2 billion. You know what they spent on services last year? $500. $500 out of $2 billion. Now, I think it's very clear to anybody who will examine the facts and what Katrina has said and what the guys have said in particular, that there's a concerted effort within DOC and maybe higher up, I don't know, to eliminate, to go back to nothing but fear, retaliation, intimidation, and have people locked up and warehoused as if they're not capable of anything. That's what's happening in DOC, and make no mistake about it. If you look at the facts, that's it. Katrina?
Yeah, that's okay.
This is emotional for you. I mean, I saw you getting choked up there. Just tell me your feelings about what's happened. I know when we came in there, you were excited.
Yeah.
And 5 days later, after our story aired, what are your emotions that your good intentions have ended this way?
I have been devastated. I absolutely love the guys that I have the opportunity to work with in Stateville. They are some of the most upstanding men that I have ever met. And the very first day I went in there, actually, I was so excited about what was going on that I literally like jumped into the classroom and I was like, this is what we're doing today. Here's the basics of giving a persuasive speech. And like went for like 15 straight minutes. And the guys were all like, and one guy raised his hand and he was like, what's your name? And I was like, oh, I'm sorry, I'm Professor Burlet. I'm here to coach debate. And he was like, oh, debate. I was like, you guys, no one told you like what you were doing here? And they were like, no, they just put us in this classroom. I was like, wow. He was like, well, Professor Burlet, we want to thank you so much for taking the time out of your day to come here and work with us. We are so grateful that you're here, and we want you to know that now that you're here, you're family. And he totally meant it. I would consider every single one of those guys to be one of my brothers. I care about them so much, and I've really missed them over the last month. And yeah, I'm sad.
Can we hear from Mr. Walker and Mr. Berry about what the programming situation was when you guys were in there? Was it difficult for you guys to access educational opportunities?
I was housed in Danville Correctional Center, which is like 2 hours from here. They break it down into 3 groups, A, B, C. The A group is 5 years and under, first-time offenders. The B group is over 5 years, first-time offenders. C group is everybody else. Because of the limited programming that is there, you might not get your number called. The situation is kind of along the lines of higher ed. When you get into vocational skills and stuff like that, you have so many individuals that are functional illiterates or have to go through ABE that it's kind of easier to get into the higher education programs. However, what they did personally, what I believe, I took business management back in like 2002. There used to be like computer programming, things like that. They purposely took out any courses or vocational classes that would assist you in reintegrating into society. However, they kept all of the programs that allowed you to self-incarcerate. So they taught you how to be janitor, custodial maintenance. I took that, and that's one of the businesses that I do. But I took it. They teach you construction. They teach you culinary. You can work in the kitchen. You can clean up. They teach you auto mechanics. You can fix the buses and the cars of the officers that are coming there. But you can't learn computers, which we're in a technology information age. You're not going to learn about computers. There were guys that had no idea. I never saw a two-way pager. That's how long I was locked up. I never saw a two-way pager. So you have guys that was locked up even longer than that have no idea what the internet or anything is. So it's not only hard to get into the programs, but the necessary programs have been stripped away purposely for individuals to actually get in. Then there's a limitation. So once I got to my associate's degree and I did 3 vocational courses, they didn't care. It was like, you're just gonna sit in your cell until something comes along. So from 2003 until 2006, I had to wait for an art class that was taught by a PNAP instructor just to get my associate's degree. Then from 2006 until the end of 2008, I had to wait until they came in with a bachelor's program through UIUC. So it's hard, it's very calculated, and I mean, it's pretty much by design, in my opinion.
My experience, my point of reference for the programming and the education is from, it's a little further back, from 1992 through 1999. When I was at Stateville, our main programming, the educational program, was through Lewis University. And I was able to take my paralegalism classes, paralegalism 1, paralegalism 2, business law, ethics, things of that nature that I use now in my career. We also had classes in the law library where I worked at that the inmates were able to teach the law, basic law, to other inmates. When I left Stateville and went to Galesburg at a Hill Correctional Center, that's where I was able to take advantage of the Roosevelt University program, the bachelor's degree program. I was also able to work within the school buildings and taught the ABE classes, the GED classes, things of that nature. I graduated in 1998, but before I left the prison, those programs were deceased. So I believe that's when the programming started to go to the wayside a little bit. And I would love for those programs to come back the way that they were at that particular time. There was also a Tools of Thought program that was ran by the counseling service, and we also used to volunteer to help the counselors facilitate that program at Hill Correctional Center. All those types of things, even though it wasn't evidence-based, it was a great class. And those, it also used to keep down menacing things in the institution because guys wanted to go to school. So they would stop the mess on the yard or in the gym and things of that nature so that the prison wouldn't be on lockdown, so you could continue to go to the classes like you wanted to.
I have a question for Ms. Kane. So I know you had talked about that you were kind of concerned about the evidence-based wording. Have you guys heard anything, regarding PNAP from IDOC, with concern about that?
No, we have not currently been threatened with having volunteer status withdrawn or classes cancelled. This requirement that programs be evidence-based is not something that has been used in the past to threaten PNAP programs either. It's new to us, so we're concerned if that becomes a common justification that's being used, that any program, including PNAP programs, would be on the chopping block. As I mentioned, we have often struggled against an uncooperative IDOC in order to maintain PNAP programs in the past, and we have run into problems at numerous points, but it wasn't specifically with the justification of needing evidence-based programs. Does that answer your question? Yeah. Thanks.
Thank you. Any other questions?
Yeah.
Bill,
Yeah.
we hear the phrase evidence-based. What is that?
I have no idea. I have no idea what it is. suppose you're supposed to have some evidence that something works, but my God Almighty, the thing that works is teaching people how to speak and read and be literate and talk and conduct debates. So I have no idea. You got to ask somebody smarter than me. I have no idea what it is. Anybody know what it is?
No.
BS.
What?
BS.
BS. There you go. It's all, what that little girl from Florida say? It's all BS. That's it. That's it. No, that's my thought at least.
Well, the evidence I can give about the program that Katrina initiated was in my 41 years of volunteer work, as you know, Bill. That was the most successful event in Stateville.
Yeah. It's the most successful one I've ever seen. Absolutely. Thank you, Bill. Thank you, Bill. It's very true. Yes, sir.
Hey, right now I have an inmate for Stateville, and he's part of the debate. He said, would you like to hear from him?
Is he here?
He's on the phone.
Yeah, put him in here.
On the phone. So we're gonna get straight.
Who is it?
It's Eugene Ross.
Here, Katrina. I don't know.
I don't know if y'all.
Hey, Eugene.
Don't put me on. Oh God.
Hey, Eugene. This is Bill Ryan.
How are you?
I'm doing great.
How you doing, man?
Hey, I'm all cool, man. I tell you what, this is a great, outstanding press conference. We got a room full of people. We had a lot of media here. And go ahead and talk to us. Tell us what's going on. Katrina did a beautiful job. Hey, what?
Yeah, listen, Bill, and everyone in attendance. Hey, listen, I just want to say how absolutely grateful
Can you hear?
and thankful we are to have you guys there today at the Thompson Center of Government Building, speaking and representing issues for those who normally don't have a voice. You're bringing a voice to an issue that is long since overdue, and we are extremely grateful and thankful. One of the biggest concerns that we have as quote-unquote inmates is that our voices are being suppressed and we're not being heard. As you know, Bill, we were fortunate enough to have a public debate here in Stateville in late March where you were one of the individuals in attendance, and it was attended by several state representatives and senators and other prisoner rights groups, members of the NAACP, and we were received very well. And the issue on the table was bringing back or reinstating the parole system in Illinois. There's way too many people languishing in prison across the country, particularly in Illinois, Bill, and everyone there, for absolutely no penological reason to continue to keep them incarcerated. There are individuals, there are juveniles, there are first-time offenders. There are individuals. A guy was just at my door. He's been incarcerated over 40 years. This individual has absolutely no hope for any relief, simply because the laws are what they are here in Illinois. We're fighting to try to get that changed. And it is people like you, Bill, and everyone in attendance there that's bringing a voice to this issue. We need to change the laws in Illinois. Most states have already reestablished their paroling systems and given people an opportunity to be released. The United States Supreme Court issued an opinion in Miller versus Alabama that gave juvenile lifers an opportunity to be resentenced. But that's simply not enough, Bill. We need to offer an opportunity for release for all incarcerated individuals. Now, one other thing, Bill, that I'd like to mention before I get off this conference call was that our debate, it was received very well by everyone in attendance. Unfortunately, the powers that be in the Illinois Department of Corrections, particularly, and I will mention her name, the assistant director of the Illinois Department of Corrections.
Her name's been bandied around, all right.
Yeah, so she took it upon herself to terminate our debate class, which was being successfully ran, a rehabilitative program that was being ran by instructor Katrina Burlet, for no other reason because she feared that a parole system in Illinois would hurt whatever her bottom line or whatever agenda that she wanted to put in front of the General Assembly. But what she did, she kicked Katrina Burlet out of Stateville and all other IDOC facilities for absolutely no reason. And our debate class has simply been terminated. This has affected our rehabilitative potential. It is a means to silence us here in the Department of Corrections as we are striving to bring light to these issues of injustice. And it's also irresponsible on her part and anyone part who sits idly by and just allows it to continue to fester without action. So again, we appreciate all of the efforts that you guys are doing on our behalf out there at the Thompson Center today. And we ask you to continue to fight for our issues as we continue to press forward.
We will, and give a hey to your, Katrina's right beside me. So.
Oh, wow. How are you?
Oh my gosh, I couldn't be better. It's so good to hear your voice. Thank you so much for sharing with us.
Listen, I am so proud of you. You are strong. You are courageous. You are a warrior.
Okay.
You are so resilient. And you are an example to me.
She's blushing.
And I'm telling you, we have your back 100%.
I got you.
There you go. No, we're gonna push it big time.
Yeah.
Don't worry about it. We're going to get the parole through, and we're going to let your guys' voices be heard. And Katrina, for sure, she's talking to you, I think. She walked away from me, so I don't know what she's doing. No. Is he gone? No, okay. Okay. I don't know how he did that, but. We will be working and organizing for parole for sure, and to try to get get her reinstated. It's not right by any standard, so that's what we'll do. Are there any other questions? I don't know what's going to happen next, but I'm often amazed but never surprised by all this stuff. So, okay, then how many? Then we'll get the letter and we'll take it up to the governor. And if you haven't signed that sheet and you've got an email, put it on there because we're going to change this system, okay? We need everybody in it. All right. Thank you all very much.